Hello and welcome to a new part of this tutorial series. Today is not going to be a UI related series, but today we're going to start working on the backend and create a couple of classes for the different blocks of Tetris. Let's dive right into it by creating a new file. So right click, new file, and create a point.dart file. This file is going to be quite simple. We are just going to create a new class that is called point. And in here it's going to have a int x and a int y. And the constructor is just going to be point and this.x and this.y, like this. Awesome. This is just a simple vector2 for integers that we are going to use. So we can now close that and create a new file. Let's call the new file block.dart. This is going to have our block logic, but we have to import the point.dart that we just made. And let's now make a class block. And this is going to have a list of points, which is going to be equal to a list of points with the size of 4, because every single block in Tetris has the exact size of 4 points, which is quite awesome, and we are going to take advantage of that. And we also need a point that we are going to rotate around. So let's make a point rotation center, and let's also give this a color of color. To be able to use the color component, we have to import the material.dart. And let's also make a couple of functions in this class. Every single block will be able to move, and every single block will be able to rotate, right? But for the move function, we need some kind of direction passed in, so that we know if we want to move the block up, down, left, or right. So let's now go to the game.dart. So let's create a new enum and call this the move direction and put in left, right, and down. And let's go to the block.dart, and in the move direction we want to pass in the move direction, and let's call this the direction, but we cannot really access it right now. We have to import the game.dart, and now we can access the move direction, and in here let's just make a switch statement on the direction, and the cases are going to be move direction dot left and then break, and let's copy this 2 times. And the next move direction is going to be right, and then the last one is going to be down. And now for the left direction, we can cycle through each point in the points array, so points.forEach, which is quite handy in Dart. And in here, let's pass in an anonymous function. And for each point p, we want to subtract, so p.x minus equals 1. We want to move it 1 to the left. Let's copy this line also and paste it down here and here. And if we move right, we obviously want to add 1 to the x, and if we move downwards, we have to add 1 as well. Let's now hit Ctrl+Shift+I to format the file correctly, and that should be our move function. Let's now work on the rotate right function. So in here again, we want to loop through each point in the points array, so point.forEach. Let's in here create a normal function, which is going to take in the point, and it's going to do something. And do not forget the semicolon at the end of the for each. And just write along with me for now. I'm going to explain it in a bit. Let's save the x position of the point, so point.x. And now we can actually update the point.x is going to be equal to the rotation center that we set up earlier, .x minus the point.y. plus the rotation center.y. And now for the point.y, this is going to be equal to the rotation center.y plus the x that we saved and minus the rotation center.x. Let's now look at how this actually works. This is going to be our y block that we want to rotate right, so this way. And this is going to be our rotation tile that we set up, okay? So this is the tile that we want to rotate it around. So in the end, it's going to be basically this field, and this field. So now the tile on the far right is going to be rotated this way, so it sits right here, okay? So now the rotation tile is going to be set at the coordinates 1 and 1, right here, 1 and 1. And we are going to rotate this tile right here, which is set at the position of 3 and 1. So let's rotate it. So the x that we are going to save is going to be equal to 3. And now the new point that we want to get out of it is right here, which is going to be equal to 1 and 3. So let's try and rotate it. So now the new point.x, so let's call this the px, is going to be equal to the rotation center.x, which is 1, minus the point.y, which is 1, and we want to add the rotation center.y, so plus 1. And this is going to be equal to 1. Awesome, that works. So here we have the 1 that we want to get. And now for the py, we have to get 3. So py. And the formula for that is again rotation center.y, which is 1. And we want to add the x that we saved to it, so that's 3. And then we just want to subtract the x of the rotation center, so 1. And this should give us exactly 3. Awesome. It works. And you can try this out for every single point. So this point should get here and this point should get right here. If you try it out a couple of times, I'm sure you'll figure out the formula and why we are using it the way we are. But let's get back to the code. And now we can also create a rotate left function. So just copy the whole rotate right function, paste it down here, change this to left. And this is going to be quite easy. You can just change all these signs and it should work perfectly. So all these signs, change that. So you should have a plus, minus, minus, plus. Awesome, that's it for the block.dart file. And let's now start creating our first block. So let's call this the iBlock.dart and hit enter to create it. And in the iBlock, we again want to import the block.dart so that we can actually derive from that. And then we also want the point so that we can work with the points. And we also want to import the material.dart so that we can work with colors. And now let's create the iBlock class. So class iBlock. And this is going to extend or inherit from the block class. iBlock constructor is going to take in an int called width, which is just going to be the grid width of our playing screen. And now the points with the index of 0 is going to be equal to a new point. And the x component is going to be the width that we passed in divided by 2 minus 2. And we want to floor it just so we have the same results for every single one. And the y component is just going to be -1. Let's copy that 3 times and put it 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. The y point is going to stay the same, -1, but the x is going to change. So let's put in a 1 here and a 0 here just to be sure, and then a +1 here. Now we also have to create the rotation center. This is going to be equal to the points with the index 1. And the color, let's set that to a colors dot, let's say some kind of cyan accent. And this is our iBlock. Let's now say that this is our starting grid and that it continues down here. If we spawn in a new iBlock, we want to spawn it in the center of the screen. So not like in the top left corner, on the top right corner. We want to spawn it in about the center of the screen. So that's why we divide the width. So the width is going to be 8 right here. This is going to be the width of the screen. And if we divide it by 2, we have 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be the center of the screen. And now if we subtract 2 from it, we get this point is going to be the top left point. Then if we subtract 1, we get this point, which is also going to be our rotation center. If we subtract nothing, we have this, and then we have this one on the right. This is about the center of the screen. And this point is going to be the rotation center of our iBlock. Awesome. I'm now fastly going to implement the rest of the blocks and just show the end result of the blocks. And I'm back. I did one important thing. I moved all the block files, so the point.dart, the block.dart, and all the blocks I created into a blocks folder, which means that I have to change the path in the block.dart file to the game.dart. So just put in a // if you do decide to do the same thing as I. Let's go through them. So the block.dart stays the same. The iBlock, we already created that. Now for the JBlock, I always have the comment down below how it's supposed to look like. We have coordinates as we did before, and then the color yellow, so it has a different color. You can either pause the screen and copy these values and then think about them, or you can download the scripts from our Git page. I leave it up to you. But be sure to at least pause the screen and check the values if you have the same ones as I do. So the J block is basically the L block, just the other way around. So this is the L block. And again, we have a different color, purple one, and the rotation center is going to be the same for each and single file. And now the S block is just basically Z block turned around. And now we have the square block, which is just a square. That's why we have -1, -1, 0, and 0. And then the coordinates right here. And T block is just the T, and then the Z block is the S block turned around. Awesome. This is going to be it for this part of the tutorial series. We created a new class that's called block and then inherit from it so that we can set up the different blocks that are available in Tetris. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit more coding today and no UI elements. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.